Hello. Today is day 140 of our 365-day Bible read. Today, from the Old Testament, we're going to be finishing the book of 2 Kings. We're reading chapters 23, 24, and 25 of 2 Kings, and then we're going to do the Bible studies for 2 Kings, chapters 23, 24, and 25. Then we're going to go on over to the New Testament, and we're going to read some more of John chapter 7 by reading verse 25 through 25, I think through 36, verse 25 through verse 36 today. Let me see. Yep, so we're reading John chapter 7, verse 25 through verse 36 today. And then we're going to finish John chapter 7 tomorrow, and we'll do the Bible study for John chapter 7 tomorrow. So we started John chapter 7 from the New Testament yesterday. We're reading some more of it today, and we're going to finish it tomorrow. So we're reading it in 3 days. I'm splitting the chapter up into 3 days. Hello. I'm splitting the chapter up into 3 days because of the simple fact that I read ahead. And because I read ahead, I'm trying to get myself back on track for the schedule that I'm following from esv.org, the year reading Bible schedule. So I'm splitting this chapter up of the New Testament of John, chapter 7. I'm splitting it up into 3 days. So yeah, then I'll be back on track of the schedule that I'm following. So yes. From the Old Testament, though, yes, we're going to finish the book of 2 Kings today by reading chapters 23, 24, and 25 and doing the Bible study for them. And we'll be done with 2 Kings, and tomorrow we'll be starting a new book of the Bible. I think it's the 13th book of the Bible. I stopped keeping track, but yeah, we're starting the book of Chronicles, 1 Chronicles tomorrow. So yes, so that's exciting. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna get started. These chapters are actually pretty short of 2 Kings of what we're about to finish up for it. So, all right, here we go. 2 Kings, chapter 23. Josiah's reforms. This is the Old Testament we're starting with. Remember, we always start in the Old Testament and then we finish in the New Testament. But we're reading the Bible straight through, skipping no books of the Bibles, no chapters we're skipping, we're reading straight through. Okay, so, all right, Josiah's reforms, 2 Kings, chapter 23. Then the king sent, and all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem were gathered to him. And the king went up to the house of the Lord, and with him all the men of Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests and the prophets, all the people, both small and great. And he read in their hearing all the words of the book of the covenant that had been found in the house of the Lord. And the king stood by the pillar and made a covenant before the Lord, to walk after the Lord and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all his heart and all his soul, to perform the words of this covenant that were written in this book. And all the people joined in the covenant. And the king commanded Hilkiah, the high priest, and the priests of the second order, and the keepers of the threshold to bring out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels made for Baal, for Asherah, and for all the hosts of heaven. He burned them outside Jerusalem in the fields of the Kidron and carried their ashes to Bethel. And he deposed the priest whom the kings of Judah had ordained to make offerings in the high places at the cities of Judah and around Jerusalem. Those also who burned incense to Baal, to the sun and the moon and the constellations and all the hosts of the heavens. And he brought out the Asherah from the house of the Lord outside Jerusalem to the brook Kidron, and burned it at the brook Kidron, and beat it to dust, and cast the dust and cast the dust of it upon the graves of the common people. And he broke down the houses of the male cult prostitutes who were in the house of the Lord, where the women wove hangings for the Asherah. And he brought all the priests out of the cities of Judah, and defiled the high places where the priests had made offerings from Geba to Beersheba. And he broke down the high places of the gates that were at the entrance of the gate of Joshua, the governor of the city, which were on one's left at the gate of the city. However, the priests of the high places did not come up to the altar of the Lord in Jerusalem, but they ate unleavened bread among their brothers. And he defiled Topheth, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, that no one might burn his son or his daughter as an offering to Moloch. And he removed the horses that the kings of Judah had dedicated to the sun at the entrance to the house of the Lord, by the chamber of Nathan Melech, the chamberlain, which was in the precincts. And he burned the chariots of the sun with fire, and the altars on the roof of the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Judah had made, and the altars that Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of the Lord. He pulled down and broke in pieces, and cast the dust of them into the brook Kidron. And the king defiled the high places that were east of Jerusalem, to the south of the Mount of Corruption, which Solomon, the king of Israel, had built for Ashtoreth, the abomination of the Sidonians, and for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, and for Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And he broke in pieces the pillars, and cut down the Asherim, and filled their places with the bones of men. Moreover, the altar at Bethel, the high place erected by Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who had made Israel to sin, that altar with the high place he pulled down and burned, reducing it to dust. He also burned the Asherah. And as Josiah turned, he saw the tombs there on the mount. And he sent and took the bones out of the tombs, and burned them on the altar, and defiled it, according to the word of the Lord, that the man of God proclaimed, who had predicted these things. Then he said, "What is that monument that I see?" And the men of the city told him, "It is the tomb of the man of God who came from Judah and predicted these things that you have done against the altar at Bethel." And he said, "Let him be. Let no man move his bones." So they let his bones alone, with the bones of the prophet who came out of Samaria. And Josiah removed all the shrines also of the high places that were in the cities of Samaria, which kings of Israel had made, provoking the Lord to anger. He did to them according to all that he had done at Bethel. And he sacrificed all the priests of the high places who were there on the altars, and burned human bones on them. Then he returned to Jerusalem. Josiah restores the Passover. And the king commanded all the people, keep the Passover to the Lord your God, as it is written in this book of the covenant. For no such Passover had been kept since the days of the judges who judged Israel, or during all the days of the kings of Israel, or of the kings of Judah. But in the 18th year of King Josiah, this Passover was kept to the Lord in Jerusalem. Moreover, Josiah put away the mediums and the necromancers and the household gods and the idols and all the abominations that were seen in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem, that he might establish the words of the law that were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Lord. Before him there was no king like him, who turned to the Lord with all his heart, and with all his soul, and with all his might, according to all the law of Moses. Nor did any like him arise after him. Still, the Lord did not turn from the burning of his great wrath, by which his anger was kindled against Judah, because of all the provocations with which Manasseh had provoked him. And the Lord said, I will remove Judah also out of my sight, as I have removed Israel, and I will cast off this city that I have chosen, Jerusalem, and the house of which I said, my name shall be there. Josiah's death and battle. Now, the rest of the acts of Josiah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? In his days, Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went up to the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates. King Josiah went to meet him, and Pharaoh Necho killed him at Megiddo as soon as he saw him, and his servants carried him dead in a chariot from Megiddo, and brought him to Jerusalem, and buried him in his own tomb. And the people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and anointed him, and made him king in his father's place. Jehoahaz reigns at captivity. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. And Pharaoh Necho put him in bonds at Riblah in the land of Hamath, that he might not reign in Jerusalem, and laid on the land a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim, the son of Josiah, king in the place of Josiah his father, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. But he took Jehoahaz away, and he came to Egypt and died there. And Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land to give the money according to the command of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and the gold of the people of the land from everyone according to his assessment, to give it to Pharaoh Necho. Jehoiakim reigns in Judah. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zibidah, the daughter of Pedaiah of Rumah. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. All right, that was 2 Kings chapter 23. We're now going to do the Bible study for 2 Kings chapter 23, and then we'll go back to the Old Testament and read 2 Kings chapter 24 and 25, and then do the Bible studies. All right, and then we'll be done with the book of 2 Kings, and tomorrow we'll be starting the book of Chronicles, 1 Chronicles. Okay, sorry, I'm out of breath. I'm big. I'm pregnant, and when I read or talk, I just get out of breath. So, yeah. All right. 2 Kings chapter 23 Bible study. What did Josiah remove from the temple of the Lord? Josiah removed and destroyed all the false gods and articles used for their worship from the house of the Lord. What prophecy was fulfilled when Josiah burned the bones of the priests from the tombs on the mountain? The bones of men and the high priest of Baal would be burned on the altar built by Jeroboam, by a son of David, Josiah. Who had prophesied this? The prophet from Bethel in the days of Jeroboam made this prophecy against the altar built by Jeroboam. Who was buried next to this prophet? The prophet from Samaria, who had fooled the man of God from Bethel into staying and eating with him, was buried next to the prophet from Bethel. What did King Josiah begin again that had not been done since the time of the judges? Josiah reinstituted the Passover. What nation defeated Judah at Megiddo? The country of Egypt defeated Judah. Who did the king of Egypt take to Egypt? King Jehoahaz was captured and taken to Egypt. All right, so that was 2 Kings chapter 23 Bible study. Whew, I'm out of breath. So, yes, and so now we're going back to the Old Testament, and we're reading 2 Kings chapter 24. Hi, everyone who has joined us tonight. All right, so 2 Kings chapter 24. This chapter, let's see how long it is. Oh, it's very short. And then 2 Kings chapter 25, that's the last chapter of 2 Kings. That one's really short as well. So yes, we'll be starting 1 Chronicles tomorrow, so that's really, really exciting. All right, 2 Kings chapter 24. In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant for 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. And the Lord sent against him bands of the Chaldeans, and bands of the Syrians, and bands of the Moabites, and bands of the Ammonites, and sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord that he spoke by his servants the prophets. Surely this came upon Judah at the command of the Lord, to remove them out of his sight, for the sins of Manasseh according to all that he had done, and also for the innocent blood that he had shed, for he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, and the Lord would not pardon, Now, the rest of the deeds of the Jehoiakim and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? So Jehoiakim slept with his fathers, and Jehoiakim his son reigned in his place. And the king of Egypt did not come again out of his land, for the king of Babylon had taken all that belonged to the king of Egypt from the brook of Egypt to the river Euphrates. Jehoiakim reigns in Judah. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father had done. Jerusalem captured. At that time, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up to Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to the city while his servants were besieging it. And Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, gave himself up to the king of Babylon, himself and his mother and his servants and his officials and his palace officials. The king of Babylon took him prisoner in the 8th year of his reign, and carried off all the treasures of the house of the Lord and the treasures of the king's house, and cut in pieces all the vessels of gold in the temple of the Lord, which Solomon, king of Israel, had made, as the Lord had foretold. He carried away all Jerusalem and all the officials and all the mighty men of the Lord, 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen and the smiths. None remained, except the poorest people of the land. And he carried away Jehoiakim to Babylon. The king's mother, the king's wives, his officials, and the chief men of the land he took into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon. And the king of Babylon brought captive to Babylon all the men of the Lord, 7,000, and the craftsmen and the metal workers, 1,000, all of them strong and fit for war. And the king of Babylon made Mattaniah, Jehoiakim's uncle, king in his place, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah reigns in Judah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. For because of the anger of the Lord, it came to the point in Jerusalem and Judah that he cast them out from his presence. And Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. All right, so that was 2 Kings chapter 24. We're now going to do the Bible study for 2 Kings chapter 24. And then we'll go back and read the last chapter of the book of 2 Kings. Okay. 2 Kings chapter 24 Bible study. It's 3 questions long. So, what nation came up against Egypt and Judah? Babylon came up against Egypt and Judah. Who did the king of Babylon carry away captive from Judah? All the royal household, all the officers, the fighting men, and the craftsmen were taken to Babylon. Who did the king of Babylon put in charge of the people left in Judah? Zedekiah was made king. Okay, so that was the Bible study for 2 Kings chapter 24. We're now starting the last chapter of 2 Kings, and yeah, we'll we'll be starting the book of Chronicles. We'll be starting the book of 1 Chronicles tomorrow. Okay. After this chapter, we're going to go and finish some more of the New Testament, John chapter 7. So we'll finish some more of it. I'm splitting it into 3 days, that one chapter, just to get myself back on track for the reading Bible schedule that I'm following from esv.org. So I had read ahead, so I'm just getting myself back on track. So I'm splitting that chapter up into 3 days, even though it's a short chapter. But okay, so 2 Kings chapter 25. Fall and captivity of Judah. And in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, on the 10th day of the month, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came with all his army against Jerusalem and laid siege to it. And he built siege works all around it. So the city was besieged till the 11th year of King Zedekiah. On the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine was so severe in the city that there was no food for the people of the land. Then a breach was made in the city, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between the 2 walls, by the king's garden, and the Chaldeans were around the city. And they went in the direction of the Arabah. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho. And all his army was scattered from him. Then they captured the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon at Riblah. And they passed sentence on him. They slaughtered the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him in chains, and took him to Babylon. In the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, that was the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the bodyguard, a servant of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem, and he burned the house of the Lord and the king's house and all the houses of Jerusalem. Every great house he burned down, and all the army of the Chaldeans, I hope I'm pronouncing that word right.
Yes.
Okay. Who were with the captain of the guard, broke down the walls around Jerusalem. And the rest of the people who were left in the city, and the deserters who had deserted to the king of Babylon, together with the rest of the multitude, Nabon Naradan, the captain of the guard, carried into exile. But the captain of the guard left some of the poorest of the land to be vine dressers and plowmen. And the pillars of bronze that were in the house of the Lord, and the stands in the bronze sea that were in the house of the Lord, the Chaldeans broke in pieces and carried the bronze to Babylon. And they took away the pots and the shovels and the snuffers and the dishes for incense and all the vessels of the bronze used in the temple service, the fire pans also, and the bowls. What was of gold, the captain of the guard took away as gold, and what was of silver as silver. And for the 2 pillars, the 1 sea, and the stands that Solomon had made for the house of the Lord, the bronze of all these vessels was beyond weight. The height of the 1 pillar was 18 cubits, and on it was a capital of bronze. The height of the capital was 3 cubits, a lattice work and pomegranates. All the bronze were all around the capital. And the 2nd pillar had the same, with the lattice work. And the captain of the guard took Sariah, the chief priest, and Zephaniah, the 2nd priest, and the 3 keepers of the threshold. And from the city he took an officer who had been in command of the men of war, and 5 men of the king's council, who were found in the city, and the secretary of the commander of the army, who mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land, who were found in the city. And Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, took them and brought them to the king of Babylon at Riblah. And the king of Babylon struck them down and put them to death at Riblah in the land of Hamath. So Judah was taken into exile out of its land. Gedaliah made governor of Judah. And over the people who remained in the land of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had left, he appointed Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, son of Shaphan, governor. Now, when all the captains and their men heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah governor, they came with their men to Gedaliah at Mizpah, namely Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, and Johanan, the son of Kareah, and Sariah, the son of Tanhumeth, the Netophanite, and Jazaniah, the son of the Maacathite. And Gedaliah swore to them and their men, saying, "Do not be afraid because of the Chaldean officials. Live in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and it shall be well with you." But in the 7th month, Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, son of Elishama, of the royal family, came with 10 men and struck down Gedaliah and put him to death, along with the Jews and the Chaldeans who were with him at Mizpah. Then all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the forces arose and went to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. Jehoiakim released from prison. And in the 37th year of the exile of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, in the 12th month, on the 27th day of the month, Evil-Merodach, king of Babylon, in the year that he began to reign, graciously freed Jehoiakim, king of Judah, from prison. And he spoke kindly to him and gave him a seat above the seats of the kings who were with him in Babylon. So Jehoiakim put off his prison garments, and every day of his life he dined regularly at the king's table. And for his allowance, a regular allowance was given him by the king according to his daily needs, as long as he lived. Okay, so that was 2 Kings chapter 25, the last chapter of the book of 2 Kings from the Old Testament. And we are now going to do the Bible study for 2 Kings chapter 25. And then we're going to the New Testament. Okay, 2 Kings chapter 25. I gotta take another sip. Okay. How long did King Nebuchadnezzar besiege the city of Jerusalem? From the 9th year of the 10th month to the 11th year of King Zedekiah's reign, they were besieged. What happened to Zedekiah and his sons? Zedekiah's sons were killed before his eyes, and he was blinded. Who was made governor of Judah? Gedaliah was made governor of Judah. Who released Jehoiakim from prison? Evil Merodach, a latter king of Babylon, treated Jehoiakim kindly and released him from prison. All right, so that was the Bible study for 2 Kings chapter 25. We are done with the book of 2 Kings as of now. Tomorrow we'll be starting the book of 1 Chronicles from the Old Testament. So now we are going to the New Testament, and we are reading some more of John chapter 7. Yesterday I started John chapter 7, and we read up until chapter 7 verse 24. So today we are picking back up at John chapter 7 verse 25, and we are reading to verse 36. Yes, so not much, but again, I'm splitting this chapter up into 3 days so I can get myself back on track of the schedule that I was following from esv.org. I had read ahead, so I'm splitting this chapter up into 3 days instead of the 2 days that they normally split them up in, because there's less books of the Bible in the New Testament. So all the chapters just about will be split up into 2 days so that we'll have enough, so that we'll be able to read both the Old and the New Testament every day for this year that we're reading the Bible. Okay. So John chapter 7 verse 25. This is the New Testament. Can this be the Christ? Some of the people of Jerusalem therefore said, is not this the man whom they seek to kill? And here he is speaking openly, and they say nothing to him. Can it be that the authorities really know that this is the Christ? But we know where this man comes from. And when the Christ appears, no one will know where he comes from. So Jesus proclaimed as he taught in the temple, you know me, and you know where I come from. But I have not come of my own accord. He who sent me is true, and him you do not know. I know him, for I come from him, and he sent me. So they were seeking to arrest him, but no one laid a hand on him, because his hour had not yet come. Yet many of the people believed in him. They said, when the Christ appears, will he do more signs than this man has done? Officers sent to arrest Jesus. The Pharisees heard the crowd muttering these things about him, and the chief priests and Pharisees sent officers to arrest him. Jesus then said, I will be with you a little longer, and then I am going to him who sent me. You will seek me, and you will not find me. Where I am, you cannot come. The Jews said to one another, where does this man intend to go that we will not find him? Does he intend to go to the dispersion among the Greeks and teach the Greeks? What does he mean by saying, you will seek me and you will not find me? And where I am, you cannot come. Okay, so we're going to stop there, and we're going to finish John chapter 7 tomorrow and do the Bible study for John chapter 7 tomorrow. So a quick recap of what we did today. From the Old Testament, we finished the book of 2 Kings by reading by reading chapters 23, 24, and 25. And then we did the Bible studies for 2 Kings chapters 23, 24, and 25. And then we just came over to the New Testament and we read some more of John chapter 7 by reading verse 25 through verse 36, and we'll finish the chapter tomorrow and do the Bible study for it tomorrow. So I love love you guys. God loves you. You're worthy. You're valuable. You are enough. You matter. You're beautiful. You are a Jesus Christ champion. And I am proud of us on this journey that we are on, and we are doing it. So I love you guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm reading the comments. I'm gonna block. I always read the comments at the end, and if anyone says anything like crazy, then I always block them from the channel. Okay. Alrighty. So, all right. Love you guys. Good night.